Alright guys, Jameson and Alex here. Today we're talking about The Way of the Aether Monk from Griffon's Saddlebag Book 2.
Yes.
They have sponsored a series to cover all 12 of the subclasses from their newest book. So if you want to get access to all those today, make sure you pre-order the book, which you can do now, or you can become a monthly Patreon subscriber and get access to all kinds of crazy stuff.
So much stuff!
Over 1,000 kinds of magic items,
stuff.
monsters, character options. If you're new to the channel, what we're going to do is go through all the abilities gained in the subclass. We're going to rate it based on its roleplay value, combat value, and overall class synergy based on how the abilities gained in the subclass improve on the base class abilities.
Right.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to be entered in our D&D Beyond Players Bundle giveaway.
Great stuff.
Let's just jump straight into it.
That's right. I will continue with my very as quick as I do quick. Asides about the artwork in the book, it's fantastic. I like the arm motions with. It almost looks like waterbender a little bit with the artwork. Like there's kind of water trail coming around a little bit, but it's Way of the Aether Monk. So we start off with our first ability at Spirit Strike at level 3. When you choose this tradition, you learn to send out blue flashes of spiritual energy to attack your foes. Whenever you make an unarmed strike, you can choose instead to make a melee spell attack with your spirit energy. You are proficient with this attack, which has a reach of 30 feet, and you add your wisdom modifier to its attack and damage rolls. Again, we love that. The damage type is force. We also love that. And its damage die is 1d4. This die changes as you gain monk levels, as shown for your martial arts column of dice. And then when you reach level 6 in this class, you can use your Stunning Strike feature when you hit a creature with your Spirit Strike. So a 30-foot ranged Stunning Strike. Oof. Also love that. So what else do I mean? I'm sold here at this point. So I get a 30-foot range attack, scales up in damage. And I get to do Stunning Strike at a range, and it's force damage.
Yeah, and you can focus on wisdom so you can make your saves better for your stunning strikes.
Also, yes.
Awesome. Also at level 3 we have Spirit Hand. You learn the Mage Hand cantrip, which you can cast and control as a bonus action. When you cast it, it doesn't require verbal or somatic components. The hand from your spell appears as a blue spiritual copy of your own.
See, for the sake of flavor purposes alone, if the person chose to use a bonus action to breed the hand up in combat, I would let them, like, for flavor purposes, make the Spirit Strike kind of like a miniature, like, Big B's hand kind of thing. Whap. And just for flavor purposes. I mean, it's still going to be the same damage type and everything. We just, flick them in the nose.
It's about having fun, guys.
That's right.
Then at level 6, we have Spectral Guide. You can't be possessed by ghosts or similar undead creatures, and you can use an action to spend 2 key points to cast either General Repose or See Invisibility spells without providing material components. You also gain the Spare the Dying cantrip if you don't already know it.
Yep.
Furthermore, you learn how to free certain souls from their undead vessels when you harness your key. You gain the following ability: Dismiss Undead. When you hit an undead with one attack, granted by your flurry of blows, you can force it to make a wisdom save against your key save DC. On a failed save, its spirit leaves and is put to rest, causing the creature to either vanish or become an unmoving corpse once more. If the creature's challenge rating is above the threshold shown in the following table, it automatically succeeds on the saving throw. If a creature has a bonus or penalty against any effect that turns undead, the bonus or penalty also applies to this effect. And with the table on here, we have 6th level monk for half or lower, 8th level for 1 or lower, 11th for 2 or lower, 14th for 3 or lower, and 17th for 4 or lower CR.
So it scales up a lot like a turn undead.
It is very
for
very
cleric
similar to that
as well.
For sure.
At level 11, we do get Ghost Walker. Ghost and creatures of the Bortle Ethereal meld into the material plane. You can choose to partially slip into the ethereal plane, granting you the following benefits. Ether Step. You can spend 1 key point as a bonus action, turn invisible until the end of your next turn or until you make an attack or cast a spell. Alternatively, you can spend an extra key point as part of your Step of the Wind to gain this benefit. When you do, you can also move through hostile creatures and solid objects no more than 4 inches thick or as long as you remain invisible. So a very cool little way to get through across the battlefield. Get yourself out of trouble if you need to. Also, you have Phase. When you were hit by an attack, you can use reaction to reduce the attack's damage against you by an amount equal to your monk level. As you partially slip into the border ethereal, you can use this ability a number of times equal to your wisdom modifier, minimum of once, and you get all expended uses when you finish a long rest. So a very reliable, easy way to just cut into damage incoming to you. Fantastic.
Yes, and before we get on to the capstone ability on here, we're going to do a quick shout out to our other sponsor today, which is Hit Point Press and their big bads. Each month they bring you a unique boss with unique abilities and details of the boss's backstory, personality, stats, tactics, everything you need to have an exciting encounter.
This month's highlighted big bad is Gutraxer, a terrifying, fiendish troll. It's the troll, so it's bad enough as it is. This one finds a way to dismember itself and smack you around with its dismembered limbs if that's not terrifying enough.
High quality content from Hit Point Press. As always, check out their big bads today. Each month, a new villain to throw against your party.
That's right.
Check out the link down below. So, moving on to the capstone ability on here, we have Sight Beyond Sight. At 17th level, you gain True Sight and Telepathy out to 60 feet, as you are able to clearly see the world and connect to the souls within using Aether. In addition, you can use an action to cast the Etherealness spell. When you do, the spell has a duration of 1 minute. Once you cast the spell, you can't cast it again until you finish a long rest.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
True Sight.
That True Sight. How about that?
That's fun.
We got some thoughts on that in the rating portion of the video. First up is the Roleplay Value asterisk, as always. Talking about roleplay, we're talking about interacting with the world around you, interacting with NPCs, non-combat scenarios, avoiding combat, basically things outside of the initiative order.
Yep.
Not talking about your class fantasy, history, lore, background, that's on you as a player. We can't rate you, but we can rate the abilities gained in the subclass and how they might improve your potential in those role-play scenarios.
Yes.
That being said, looking at the roleplay on here, you get some interesting options for sure. You get
Yes.
Mage Hand, which is probably one of the best cantrips for RP. It's very solidly useful. You get some interesting key point usage for some spell options.
Yep.
In your General Repose, See Invisibility, Spare the Dying, potentially could come into play.
Yeah, you're saving somebody's life technically.
Yeah, there's, maybe some Dismiss Undead with smaller stuff, just, putting something to rest. There's some maybe niche use on the RP on there.
Sure.
The Aether Step is niche with a short duration, but the way that it's written, it says at the end of your turn it ends, so you could theoretically spend multiple key points to keep extending it to the end of the next turn, to the end of the next turn, to the end of the next turn.
You really needed to not be seen for a while.
You'll be burning through key points pretty quick if you do that, but you have that option if you really need to just hide around a corner and turn invisible for 20, 30 seconds.
Yeah,
probably all right.
It is only one key point per use too, so it's not going to cost you 3 or 4. It's going to stack up into your key points in a hurry.
Right.
So if you needed to pop 3 or 4 to get yourself out of serious trouble, again, the option's there.
Definitely. I think where things get crazy is the capstone here with True Sight, which is massive for roleplay. It's a 6th level spell, comparable, but it's always on.
But this is always on.
Yeah, so there's that versus not. And telepathy as well, which telepathy with 60 foot, sure, you can do all kinds of shenanigans with that. And Etherealness, which is a mini version of the 7th level spell, which has longer duration and more impact. But it is a similar use to that with 1 minute. So you have to be a little bit more concise and direct and efficient with your time with 1 minute on here. But it is what it is on there. It is an option to do that if you do need those access to those kind of things. That being said, it does take a long time to get to 17, and before then, you're having a lot of really niche options with that. So we just went with a 3.5.
Yep.
The real weight comes in later on, but it just takes maybe a little bit too long to get to that top end down there.
On the combat side of things, where it's a very interesting kind of flow through. It's very heavy up front with what you get with this on your combat side of things. And again, the capstone also is very, very helpful in combat with True Sight being able to see through all kinds of effects and fogs and all these, shape changing and all that kind of shenanigans. But for the sake of a monk, again, anytime we talk about martial classes, yes, monk is not as big of a deal, but you still need to be able to get to melee range so you can do your stuff. This giving you an all-the-time reliable 30-foot range attack, and the fact that it's force damage, which is one of the 2 best damage types as far as things that do not resist it hardly at all, force and psychic damage basically. And the damage scales up with your martial arts die. So, fantastic. And it also lets your stunning strike be used with that same attack at a range of 30 feet. So you can reliably have the choice to do that all the time. You don't have to make sure you get right up there in somebody's face. Because if you don't want to get within melee range of the large red dragon in front of you, you don't have to with this. You can kind of flow through that mid-rangey, which I really like, because I don't think enough subclasses kind of enough classes / subclasses kind of excel in playing through that area. It's a very unique part of the battlefield. Either like in your full squishy casters or your rangers are trying to stay like way the far out of there because they're back there with archery or casting spells and they got a D6 hit die, or your big bruisers are in there beating stuff up, and you know. So this kind of gets to flow through this weird middle ground, which is kind of cool, very fun. The Mage Hand cantrip, you know, it is a bonus action. So I mean, if you wanted to hold something for you in combat, it can, or you know, throw something maybe. Maybe I don't know. But there's some uses in combat because it does let you use it as and control it as a bonus action. So that's great. The Spread the Dying cantrip could be the difference in somebody dying or you know just being unconscious. It's nothing too exciting, but it's effective. Does its thing. Before you get your true sight, you can do the see invisibility spell. So you know if somebody is playing around with not being able to see them, you could see them. Dismiss Undead obviously lets you get rid of lower level CR undeads instantly on a failed save. Again, a lot like clerics. But if you're not fighting undead,
that's just
this ability is completely useless. So take that with a grain of salt. Also with your Ghostwalker, the ability to ether step through stuff, make yourself invisible, and in the short burst can be great because if you've been surrounded, you can make yourself invisible and get out of there, not get hit, get away, even go through a wall. So if you've been sent in to kind of scout and then you're kind of pounced on, even it's kind of combat, you're like, okay, I'm surrounded by 3 dudes, but there's like a wall that's only kind of inch and a half thick here right next to me. I'm just bye, and you can get yourself out of there. And of course, phase to me after the Spirit Strike part, this is really the best part for your survivability as a monk. It's just you already have evasion, but this will be allow you to get rid of direct hit damage reliably, and that scales up with your monk level. So just by using a reaction, I'm gonna knock this down by 12 damage, which you hit by 18, you're taking away 2/3 of that damage just automatically, and it is useless for a long rest, but it's based on your wisdom modifier because of the other things on this subclass that use your wisdom modifier. You're going to want to have it pretty high, if not maxed out. Your dex and your wisdom are going to be where you're putting in this on here. And of course, your capstone true sight is always good, and the etherealness spell can be definitely used in combat. We gave it a 3.5 out of a possible 5, and I think a lot of the pain, like James talked about with the RP, is that 17 is really, really cool. It's a hard way to get to. The spectral guide thing, if you're not hitting undead, that half that ability is completely useless. And then so there's the middle is kind of interesting, and the capstone just a long way away. But to me, the meat of what's great about it is the whole Spirit Strike ability of that force damage. It's a ranged attack, and you can use your Stunning Strike at range too.
Right. I mean, it's the best damage type, no question on here with force damage, which is a big deal, and it lets you use wisdom, which I'll just transition into synergy on here as I talk about this on the wisdom here. The only thing that's a little weird with this in the combat side that can get a little wonky is you could get a little bit mad with your scores, with your multi-ability dependence, because if you want to go more on the wisdom, you can do that. It's going to make your Stunning Strike a little bit better, but the thing is, if you let dex get too low, it's going to impact your armor class. It's going to impact
your regular just martial arm strikes,
your regular attacks. So if you're trying to split your scores between dex and wisdom, then con, it's questionable as well. So you got to really figure out how you want to distribute your stats and still be impactful. Maybe you just try to focus all on wisdom and just not worry so much about dex. You try to distribute all of your attacks as unarmed strikes. You can do that. You're going to be a little bit weaker up front, but you are dealing a good damage type. Yeah. So that can offset some of that a little bit. But there's definitely some forethought that has to go into how you want to build your character with this for sure. Yeah. One of the nice things here, though, is you get some alternative uses for key points, which can be pretty impactful. Yep. I mean, you get some access to some spells, though they can be a little bit niche when they do work. They can be very impactful. See, invisibility can be a big deal. Yeah. And then being able to turn invisible can be a big deal. So, and like Alex said, kind of get in and out of combats or do some shenanigans through walls and stuff. Yeah. You can make life difficult for enemies for sure with that.
You become a very nice scout that way too, because you can move like the wind as a monk anyway. And so the fact that you can make yourself invisible if you needed to get through something, if there's a patrol coming around and you're trying to be like one guy who goes in and checks out this hide out at nighttime. You can literally just phase into a wall, stay invisible for a split second, make sure there's nobody in the room when you make yourself a full person again. And of course, eventually, once you have that true sight and telepathy ability, you really can just see all and be all as far as looking and getting everywhere.
So you're getting some good utility, and again, playing that mid-range can be pretty impactful, especially in specific party compositions. And with a very solid damage type. So a little bit utility, solid damage type, a little bit of range thrown in there.
With some weird funkiness.
That's a good way to put it. Some weird funkiness in the middle.
Weird funkiness in the middle.
So we gave it a 4 on the synergy.
Yep.
It's got some good internal synergy a little bit with, the key points and the stunning strike and the range. And I mean, there's some interesting stuff that can be done here. But again, you got to be really careful when you're building your character how you want to try to maximize the efficiency of one way or another. You might need to forego a little bit of armor class to get a little bit more focus on your range.
Yeah.
So
or vice versa.
Or vice versa. Yeah. So.
But the good thing is with all the key point options that are here, none of them cost much.
Right.
So you don't feel like you're missing out on your base for using these, or you're missing out on these if you're using more just flurry of blows because you want to get all the punches and kicks in. So that's also good. There's not a lot of 4 and 5 casting key point abilities. It's a bunch of 1s and 2s, so that's fantastic too.
And of course, if you're just in a campaign setting that's all focused on undead, you're going to be a bit more impactful as well. So there's always that grain of salt that goes along with these kind of specialized subclasses.
So the overall score could definitely kick up or down based on the amount of undead that are here.
Yeah,
in your campaign.
it's not so focused on it that it's just some of those spellcaster focus subclasses or monster like celestial or infernal focused.
Base ranger picking favorite enemy. I was like, I'm going to be the Slayer of Giants, and you go 27 sessions and you see one giant. You're like, okay.
So it is what it is on there. An interesting, a little bit more unique take on this psychic-y force. It's interesting for sure to have some utility with this ghosty, ghouly kind of side of Monk. So interesting on there. Thank you again to our sponsors, Griffon Saddlebag.
Absolutely.
Make sure you check out their stuff, their new book. They have another book. They have their Patreon, which has literally thousands of items.
Supporting them supports us, and it's a wonderful loop of everybody getting more stuff.
And of course, Hit Point Press with their big bads. And the new big bad for this month, Gutraxer.
A dismembering, slap them with your own dismembered limbs troll.
So throw these villains at your party and watch them squirm.
Yeah.
Links down below. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell notifications so you know all of our new videos are coming out. And as always, thanks for watching.